Firstly, I would like to express sincere thanks to the CTA for organizing this very timely and important briefing session on small island economies. Of course, this is of great significance and importance to me personally and to many of my colleagues here, but for me because I represent some of the most stereotypical SIDS, small island states in the Eastern Caribbean, and therefore have been au fait with a lot of the issues that I expect we will be discussing today all my life. SIDS represent a heterogeneous group of countries scattered all over the Caribbean Sea and the Pacific, Atlantic, and Indian Oceans. They are often described either by their territorial exiguity or by their limited demography. However, no matter how they are analyzed, SIDS are incontrovertibly vulnerable in many ways. They suffer from the limitations of their natural resource base. They often specialize in monoculture with insufficient diversification of their exports. They have a high emigration rate where often the most intellectually gifted leave to search for greener pastures in more developed countries. They suffer from the negative effects of high population density, a narrow internal market, and limited economies of scale. They are also highly exposed and open to external shocks, including natural disasters and international economic and financial volatilities. The insularity of SIDS has another consequence: isolation from other regions and markets. The implications of these are glaring. Small island developing countries face an amalgam of situations whose cumulative effects are unlike those currently faced by other countries. Yet today, SIDS still have serious difficulties in convincing the international community of the importance of providing them with specific treatment commensurate with their vulnerabilities that would assist in alleviating some of their intractable handicaps. Rather, they continually experience the island paradox as described by UNCTAD, according to which they are categorized as upper middle income countries but remain economically vulnerable while running the risk of increased marginalization in the world economy, and most recently in development cooperation with traditional donors. Even within the Caribbean, made up mainly of SIDS, the microstates of the Eastern Caribbean represent only 5% of the total Caribbean population and only 1% of its mass surface. They're all middle-income countries with high HDI levels, yet, like other SIDS, are 12 times more exposed to climate change than other larger countries of the world. Thus, all their hard-won development gains achieved through development cooperation could be wiped out by just one persistent hurricane within the space of 12 hours. Their physical disadvantages are further exacerbated by the current economic crisis that have led to exorbitant costs of food and energy, a global slowdown in tourism, diminished remittances, an increase in natural disasters, as well as high levels of debt and deficits. This grave reality has resulted in retarded social inclusion, slowed investment, and increased unemployment in SIDS. Colleagues, this is why I find today's briefing session to be pertinent, timely, and necessary. We must state once again what the vulnerabilities of SIDS are, for it's only in exposing our nemesis that we can jointly work towards pinpointing and carving out the opportunities that we must seize to be able to overcome these challenges that bedevil our development efforts. We are aware that some of the realities that SIDS face might never change. Their small territorial and population size mean that they will have consequential limited representation in international and multilateral negotiating fora, limited opportunities for trade, high investment, infrastructure and production costs, and budgetary vulnerability. However, SIDS must be given opportunities to integrate into the world economy, despite their structural and permanent handicaps and exposure to exogenous shocks. The vulnerability indices developed by leading think tanks and multilateral organizations such as UNCTAD and the Commonwealth Secretariat, among others, must be taken seriously as they adequately encompass the risks and inherent challenges SIDS face to their resilience. How then do we build resilience in SIDS? Many options are open for consideration. On a national level, we can encourage the global strategic repositioning of SIDS through re-specialization, the development of niche products and value added, like some ACP SIDS already do, optimizing the services sector, including the development of a modern offshore sector, financial or academic, rendering our maritime sector more competitive, carving out a place in ICTs, or even exporting our peculiar island cultures. Resilience must also be built on a regional level through integration. Over time, the Eastern Caribbean states have made efforts to establish joint institutions, for example, to overcome the disadvantages of small size and limited market access. Some of these institutions, such as a currency unit administered by a single central bank, have clearly been largely successful in making the Eastern Caribbean sub-region more attractive to international capital and have helped in leveraging business and inward investment into what is demonstrable a stable financial and capital market environment. On a wider level, CARICOM have been the vehicle for the Eastern Caribbean integration into the world economy through jointly negotiated and signed trade agreements with the EU, but also with other partners from the North and the South. Further, the Joint Caribbean-EU Partnership Strategy currently being developed is designed to advance the partnership in areas considered to be shared priorities, including sustainable development, regional integration, climate change, and natural disasters. These major themes embody some of the most critical components of the region's long-term development strategy. However, these are not enough to build resilience. SIDS are therefore at a crossroads. They must reposition themselves by building resilience and reducing vulnerability amid global change characterized by volatility, inequality, and uncertainty. It is imperative that these states continue to undertake effective change management and targeted investments to cope with global shifts. In so doing, the principles of green growth will be essential to any such plans. This approach engenders a strong focus on renewable energy, ICTs, science and innovation, green investments, training and education, and complements efforts of adaptation and mitigation to combat the catastrophic effects of climate change all while transitioning to a green economy. Studies have shown that this path to growth is replete with benefits, particularly among countries such as SIDS that already rely on the environment for economic growth. To jumpstart the implementation of the Green Agenda, to build on the Mauritius Strategy and the Barbados Plan of Action, and to take forward any result coming from the Rio +20 conference in June, the continued political and financial partnership of major development partners will be pivotal. It is for this reason that the current debate taking place in the EU regarding its development policy brings into focus a critical challenge for SIDS, their vulnerability as a deterrent to their development. With all the inherent structural limitations resulting in entrenched vulnerability, should the EU's development policy shift away from the traditional strong support to some of the most vulnerable states in the world? Colleagues, I still have a concern. Unless there is palpable traction at the international level, resilience efforts may never be as effective as they could be. Will we one day be able to speak of a new international order for islands? Many efforts have been deployed to foster international recognition of their vulnerabilities, such as at the UN, World Bank, Commonwealth, or even differentiated treatment for SIDS in the light of their paradox. We need, therefore, to create policies that focus on alleviating those handicaps that can be alleviated. We need to monitor structural handicaps that won't go away and adopt approaches that take into account the multifaceted challenges that SIDS face. With these words, I wish you a successful deliberation at today's briefing session. I look forward to sharing experiences with everyone here, and thank you for your attention.